Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome you to another SAT Masters Insights 2021 webinar. Today, we have really great speakers, so I would like to introduce them all. First, Professor Bertrand Meyer, then Professor Manuel Oriol, Olga Kornienko, Carol Futzert, and two students, Sara and Yuva, who will share their experience. As well, I would like to remind you, please feel free to ask your questions on any chat where you can find it, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Zoom, and we will be able to answer them later on our Q&A session. So first of all, now I would like to introduce Professor Bertrand Meyer, who is Provost of SAT, Chair of Software Engineering, who will tell us more about our master course. Bertrand, welcome again, and please, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Bojana. It's a pleasure to be talking a bit about the program, about which we are very enthusiastic. Let me say a couple of words about myself. I'm a nerd. I've been interested in, obsessed with software engineering for many years. My career has been partly in academia, but actually until I joined academia for good about 20 years ago, it was mostly in industry. I started my own company in California. And so I've kind of hopped back and forth between academia and industry, which fits very well with the spirit of SIT, which is, of course, a university and wants to be one of the world's top universities, but is also very practically oriented and wants to be in close connection with the world of industry. So I've lived in France, I've lived in the US. Then I joined ETH Zurich, which is another university in Switzerland, for a number of years. And then since almost the start, I shouldn't say almost since the start of SIT as an official organization, I've been associated with SIT, both as an academic professor of software engineering and provost, and as part of the team that defines the future of the university. So why are we excited about our program, and why do we think you should be excited as well? There are a number of reasons, some of which are listed here. First, the particular focus of the program. It's a computer science master, it's a software engineering master, and it is a digital leadership master. So you can find programs, master programs in some of these topics, not so much the last one, which is very original, but you can find, of course, lots of master programs in computer science. You can have a few, not so many, but you can find a few master's programs which are focused on software engineering, which is a subset of computer science, and then you can also go to business schools instead of computer science departments and find courses and programs on leadership. What's original about our program is that it's a bit of all. Actually, it's a lot of all of these three directions. So there's a strong technical content in computer science in general, and in software engineering in particular. In a few moments, we'll see the program, the details of the courses, but there's also a very strong digital leadership component. And I will explain in a moment why this is. It has to do with a particular kind of positions for which we want to train students. The program itself is indeed preparing students for key leadership positions. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. We have exceptional access, so you have as students exceptional access to business leaders, research leaders, academic leaders in various fields of endeavor. We have an original teaching model, which was ready before COVID. COVID hit us like it hit everyone else, and is clearly still with us for quite some time at various levels, stronger or weaker. They're disrupting our models more strongly or more weakly, depending on the time. But we didn't wait for COVID to develop a mode of teaching which involves traditional, personal, in-person techniques and technology-based, very modern approaches of agile teaching, distributed teaching. We have students all over the world, and flip teaching. We have very strong research and industry partnerships with a number of companies and institutions, university institutions. We have double degrees with universities, and there might be more in the future. At the moment, we have agreements with the National University of Singapore and with Carnegie Mellon in the US. And we offer scholarships. So these are some of the key points, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to develop some of them. Can we get to the next slide? So as I said, we have this triple focus of our program, which mixes technical skills, management skills, and leadership skills. And if you look around, you'll find little in this area. I'm saying little because I have not performed an exhaustive search, but really I don't know of any such program. Next slide. So here's the same observation in slightly more detail. It's actually the program of courses that we offer over this 2-year period. I'm not going to describe all the courses. I just want to give you an idea of what we offer in various areas so that you can get the spirit of the program. So technical track, management track, and leadership track. When I say track, of course, I don't imply that you're doing technical first, then management, then leadership. All this is interlaced. Although it is true that we have more technical stuff at the beginning, and then as the program progresses, we have more and more management and leadership skills. They start from the beginning, but they become more important as we go. It's normal to build first a technical basis. So on the technical side, in the technical track, let me mention some courses. Quality engineering is a course taught by my colleague Mauro Pezze, who is the Professor Mauro Pezze, who is the director of the master program. He is a world-known expert in testing. He wrote one of the basic textbooks on software testing, and so he focuses very much on techniques that make it possible to produce high quality software. The second course is dear to my heart because it's my course, software construction, architecture, and engineering. So it indeed has three parts. It was initially designed just as a software engineering course, but then what we realized is that students come to us from a diversity of background. Most of the students have a bachelor's in computer science, but not all of them. We also take the risk of admitting students with a very strong technical background in other fields, of course, with some programming experience, but not necessarily very deep. So we have somehow to bring everyone to the same level. So we talk about software construction, which is programming with a very strong emphasis on quality. Then we talk about architecture, which is the overall organization of software systems. Some of you may know, for example, the notion of design pattern. This is very much at the center of software architecture. And then I go more into software engineering as a whole, including techniques of project management, software project economics, things which are not strictly technical, but also very important in practice. Another example of such a topic is requirements. Then let me list some of the other courses. We have a strong focus. No, not yet, please. We have a strong focus in general at SIT on security. There are courses on data science, architectural strategy, which is more about software architecture. And then I'll let you read the rest of the technical track. Let me mention that we're not afraid of going into very new leading edge topics like quantum mathematics, which is very important for the future. You know, you cannot yet go to Amazon and order a quantum computer, at least maybe you can, but I haven't tried. But it's going to be very important in the next 20, 30 years, and we want our students to be ready for this kind of thing. On the management side, let me list some of the important courses: product design, management, and analytics. You know, it's the kind of thing that we want to teach, not just how to develop software, but how to produce systems that are going to be useful to someone and that are going to be a big success commercially. And that's the kind of thing that traditional university programs in software engineering typically do not teach. And then these leadership courses, for example, agile leadership, customer-centric mindset, entrepreneurship, and intrapreneurship. We expect a number of our students to go into business for themselves, to create startups, and we're going to support them. One course which is actually on the technical track and for some reason is not listed here is the Capstone Project, which is going to be described to you in a few minutes by my colleague, Professor Manuel Oriol. This is also something that is very original in the software world. You know, mechanical engineers do this at the end of their study, of their bachelor or master studies. They have a group project to produce some robot or some car. It's not common in IT, and we have this very original and very successful course about which Manuel will talk. Next slide, please. So part of the attraction of SIT lies in the network, the ecosystem, if you like, of companies about which I'll talk next, and people who are very closely, actually more or less closely, depending on the person, associated with us and provide us with their advice, their indications of what important areas are emerging, where we should go, where we should put the emphasis. So, you know, without going through the whole list, of course, the most important of them for SIT is the second person on the left, Sergey Belosov, who is the founder of SIT and who is an extremely successful entrepreneur, known in particular for companies like Parallels and more recently Acronis, which is the company that helped us get started initially. And Sergey Belosov is the CEO of SIT and is playing a very active role in defining the strategic directions for SIT. He is very much an out-of-the-box thinker and very quick to detect areas of promise for the future and forcing us to go into these directions. We have people like Arthur Eckert, who is a world-class physicist. Another world-class physicist at the bottom right of the slide is Konstantin Novoselov, who is, I think, the youngest who was the youngest Nobel Prize in physics in the history of the prize. An expert in new materials, the discoverer of the fascinating graphene material, and he's the chairman of our advisory board, and again providing us with great advice. Just above him is Bruce Score, who's not a physicist. He's closer to my kind of topic, software engineer, and in particular an agile and project management leader who provides us with lots of good advice. And I could describe each of these people. You can look up their resumes on our site. They come from very different walks of life and all help us define the strategy of SIT. Next. Our teaching model, as I said, predated COVID. We, of course, improved it and adapted it with the crisis coming. It's a blended model, including on-site and remote. It looks like, given the current constraints, the first semester of the incoming academic year is going to be fully on-site. This is actually what happened last year. The first semester, I said on-site, and I meant the reverse, the opposite, online. It's what happened last year. But by the way, everything I say, when I boast about our program, well, you can and you should take my word for it. But if you don't take my word for it, a couple of students are going to talk next, so they will give you the view from the learning trenches. So last year, we started online for the first semester, and then there are still some students who are online, but most of the students actually came to Schaffhausen starting in the second semester around April. We have direct experience. We provide you with the possibility of directly participating in industrial projects with our partners. We have excellent academic instructors, some of them full-time at SIT, like the ones I mentioned, Professor Pizze, Professor Orion, and myself, and others from other universities, typically top Swiss universities, but also from abroad. We have seminars, we have interviews with some leaders at the level of those I mentioned, and we take great care of our students individually, so the learning is individualized. Next. We also have a strong research program, which is still being built. And so I'm not going to go into the details of it, because at this point, I guess your interest is mostly still in education. But we follow the idea of the research-led university, where the best teaching relies on the best research, and the other way around, because students are a very important input to research. And for example, in my group, we have a couple of students who have been participating, mostly on a pro bono basis. They're mostly for the sheer intellectual excitement without getting any credits. But for us, it's very important to have this kind of constant input. The three areas are computer science and software engineering, then quantum technologies and advanced materials, which is under formation. And there will be in the future a whole area of tech transformation and entrepreneurship. Next. We have lots of opportunities, not just to intake knowledge, but to act, which is, of course, the best way to learn. So there's the Capstone Project, which was mentioned and on which you'll get to talk in a couple of minutes. We have the possibility of summer internships or personal study. The program includes a master thesis, which typically is done either in a research lab or in industry. There's also the notion of a startup thesis, in which you do your thesis as part of a startup effort. As mentioned, we give you access to world leaders, and there's always the possibility of a career opportunity with some of our partners. Next slide. Why do we have this triple focus on technical IT stuff, computer science and software engineering, then management, then digital leadership? Well, it results from a market study, if you like. But as we asked, in particular, Sergei Belousov asked his network of contacts, typically CEOs of companies and high-level decision makers, what they needed. And one thing they said is, we have developers, we can hire from computer science programs, and not enough of them, but we find developers. We also find MBAs, people who are supposed to know to manage, but that's only part of what we need. What we really need to be able to compete at the leading edge is people who both understand the technology and have leadership and management abilities. And these we have a lot of trouble finding in the market or even training internally. And so this is really the realization that came to the design of our program. So some of the typical leadership positions for which we are training our students include things like chief architect, chief product officer, chief program officer, chief development officer, chief security officer, chief security officer, chief information officer, of course, and some X, in CXO, which have not been invented yet, but are going to become essential in the future. So this is really the crux of the SIT idea. Next. This is the detail of the program. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to give you too many details, but there are three variants. The classic variant is 2 years. It's a standard Bologna system master program for those of you who are familiar with the system. Then you can also, particularly for those who come out of a company and want to get back to the company, or they're sent by their company and they want to get back to the company as quickly as possible, you can compress the scheme a little bit. And then there's the ability for a select number of students to do the second year in one of our partner universities. So you do the first year with us and the second year elsewhere. Next. So this is it as far as I'm concerned, and I really appreciate the opportunity to describe the essentials of the program. Thank you very much, Bojana.
Thank you, Bertrand, so much for this comprehensive talk. Now I would like to invite Professor Manuel Oriol, who will join us here and talk about key course that actually runs over 3 semesters during Masters, Capstone Project. Welcome, Manuel, and please join us here.
Yep, thanks very much. Hope you can hear me. Always a possibility that people speak but don't get to be listened to. So, I mean, when I was a student, I always felt that there was a wide gap between what I had learned and how companies worked. So when we designed the Capstone Project course, we tried to close this gap. And that is somehow the leading discussion here, or the leading thinking that we had. So what you see here on the slide is what the SIT students have done this year in the Capstone Project course. They have made an application, a web app, that is allowing to share millions of recipes from people all over the world. Of course, at the moment, it's still in development phase, so we don't have millions of recipes, but we count on you, right? So all students, the way it worked, all students made proposals, and all these proposals were evaluated by the students and then refined. Finally, we voted, and we decided to go for this app here. Okay, so it's from the students, by the students. Next, please. The course itself is a mix of formal presentations and guest presentations. It also has what you need for doing practical development. So for example, you start with requirement solicitations with stakeholders, you do fast design and prototyping, you do architecture, you do practicalities of cybersecurity, and you develop following an agile process. In the meantime, you learn various tools to make mockups, to handle Git repositories, so code repositories, how to handle integration servers, how to use static analyzers. So all this is what you learn along the way. You should note that this project that we were discussing, you have a number of groups, but they don't develop each a website. You have a development that is happening with the whole cohort. So everybody is contributing to the same project, right? And organizing so many people working together is already part of the challenge. And our students can tell you, various stories from this time where, it's difficult to work together when you're 50 people or 40 people, right? Please, let's go to the next slide. So here you have some kind of understanding, some kind of view of what is taught during the various semesters. It's a project course, so it goes over 18 months. And the first semester, you really focus on requirement solicitation, making the proposals, as you can see here, choose the concept, then creating mocks, and then have an initial proof of concept, right? So this has been a very, very busy first semester. And then you might think at the end that because you have an initial proof of concept, everything has been done already. It's not true. Actually, then afterwards, we have an architecture step. So where we work with the architecture course to create some architecture for the website. We choose the architecture. Again, it's a competition between the groups. And then there is sprint-based development, where we use here GitLab as a repository and a social development tool. And then we have the initial deployment. And the integration step was, let's say, a little bit hectic at the beginning. But the students succeeded at deploying a first version of the website that runs using the proper architecture. And then the third semester is where we enter now with this cohort. The idea here is that there are many things to do that pertain to hardening the platform, making it more, let's say, usable by a real company or a real set of users, and then showing it to the stakeholders, and then taking this feedback and improving it, right? So I expect, for example, that we will harden the cybersecurity, that we will perform a lot more stress tests, etc. So the third semester is also quite intense. Thank you. As you can see here. But you see, this is many things that are there is to organize yourself, making sure that you do the right thing, being able to interact with all the other students. This is the main learnings that you should have during these semesters. And I would say that most of the students take the other courses, not seeing always that they interact together and how to use them in practice, right? So from a practical perspective, if you're not really using it in a broader context, it's a little bit more difficult to see how it organizes. So this course is here to do that, and works with the others so that well, you have a comprehensive, a holistic view on what it means to develop software. A final point here is that we have many guest speakers who come from industry. So maybe next slide. This is a list of the first 2 semesters guest speakers that we have. So Bertrand was one of the guest speakers, but then the other ones are definitely from industry. These people are a blend of specialists in specific fields such as user-centric design, architecture, requirement solicitation, and distributed systems, and also business people. And you can see you have a couple of CEOs, founders of startups, and high-level managers. And I think this has brought much to the students because then you ask the real questions. You know, when you start, do you get concerned with architecture, for example? And the answer is no, not at first, but then it bites you back, right? For example. So this has been giving you a much better understanding of the realities of the development. And I think it's been very valuable. I encourage you to ask the questions to either me or the students who are presenting here. And I think it's you will have a lot more that is coming from them out, as well as insights. And I'm done.
Thank you a lot, Manuel. Okay, now I would like to invite Olga Kornienko, Head of Talent Recruitment at SAT, who will tell us more about admissions process and fees. Olga, welcome, and please join us here.
Thank you, Bojana. Thank you all. It's nice to see you all watching our streaming today. Please ask the questions. And thanks to Bertrand and Manuel, who just right now told about our great program, our master's program in computer science and software engineering. And right now we'll tell how to get to this program. First of all, I will start from the fees. Tuition fee is 5,000 Swiss franc per semester for non-Swiss residents and 2,500 Swiss francs for Swiss residents. This is our tuition fees. Application fee to apply is 35 francs and it's not refundable. We also have scholarships and there are 2 types of scholarships on which you can apply right now. It's the full scholarship, which is cover tuitions and living costs in Switzerland. And the second type of scholarship is tuition waiver only. So let's go to the next slide. And I'm sure that most of you already started your application. And I will tell you right now how to finalize your application, when to finalize your application, and what will be waiting for you during the admission process. First of all, I want to mention that for everyone who is applying for scholarship, do it as soon as possible because the application process is a little bit longer than for others who is applying as fee-paying students. First, I think you already started to do this. Most of you need to register to our admissions portal. You can see the link on the slide. There is a chat option there, so please feel free to ask any questions which you have to our admissions managers. The second step, as soon as you register, so you will get a confirmation email, and sometimes you're telling that you haven't received confirmation email. This is the tip for you right now. So wait for 2 minutes for your confirmation email. Maybe you can check like promotions folder or spam folder in your Gmail account, but it's for sure it's in your email box. As soon as you are in, you will see your portal there where you need to fill out all the needed information about yourself. It's not so difficult, just several minutes. I think it takes something like this. Then you need to upload all the supporting documents. So you can see all the documents which you need to upload on the screen. This is diploma and transcript, motivational letter, your CV, recommendation letter, at least 1, ID, and your profile photo. I want to note that English certificate is not required document for us. So if you don't have any TOEFL, IELTS, it doesn't matter for us because you will have interviews and you should understand by yourself that the whole program will be in English. So upload all the documents, then you need to submit your application by checking all the information which you filled in during your application process. After this, you need to pay non-refundable application fee of 35 francs. So the deadline for these 2 steps is August 31st. It's less than 1 month. Do it as soon as possible. Please, the next slide. Yeah. So the next steps are required steps for scholarship applications, like pass online test and interviews. But we are recommending for all of you to pass online programming test as soon as you will send and pay your application fee. You send and submit your application to us. I will get this application. I will check all the information. If it's like we need something else, I will let you know. And at the same day, I will send a link to the programming test. If you're applying as fee-paying student, you can skip this step. Please let me know about this. I'm also mentioning this in the email to you. As soon as you get the link, you have 7 days to complete the test. You will have, as soon as you start the test, you will have only 3 hours to finalize 4 tasks. We recommend, as I mentioned, to pass the test for everyone, but it's like up to you who is applying for as fee-paying students. After this step, your application will be sent to the faculty review, and at this stage, you can get your rejection, or you can get and be invited to the next step of our admission process. The next step is interview step. The first interview will be with SAT faculty, and the second interview will be with business partner. The second interview, this is for those who is applying for scholarship. And the tip for you, each interview is taking 15 to 20 minutes. You will be asked different technical questions related to computer science and software engineering. Other questions may regard your education, your motivation, your working experience. After the interviews, there will be admission committee meeting where the final decision will be made and your results will be sent to you. What can you get as a result of your admission process? You can get an offer with or without scholarships, full scholarship and tuition waiver, and you can get the offer as fee-paying student. Also, you can get the rejection mail. In this case, we encourage you to apply next year. So as soon as you get your result, your offer, you need to confirm, accept your offer at the admission portal. As soon as you accept it, our program manager, Carol Fuzert, who is our next speaker, she will tell what will be the next steps when you will be the admitted students. So please ask the questions. I also remind you that you have chat option, we have emails, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Yeah, thank you, Bayana.
Thank you, Olga, a lot. As Olga mentioned, yes, please feel free to write your questions and we will be able to answer them either live on our Q&A session very soon. Either we will then reply by email and send you all the wrap-up recording and all answers inside the email. Thank you, Olga, once again. As you mentioned as well, now I would like to invite Carol Futzert, who is Master Program Manager at SAT, and she will tell us more about Schaffhausen, how is living there and cost of living, and more about visa. Carol, please join us here.
Thank you very much, Bojana. Thank you, Olga. It's a pleasure to be with you all here this morning. And my main point here this morning is to let you know that once you have applied to the program, once you've been accepted and enrolled, that the program office here at SIT will be with you every step of the way. So from your post-admission process to your time here in Switzerland, and then all the way into graduation. So a couple of bits of information for you following up on what Olga explained to you. Once you have been admitted to the program, or should you be admitted, you will then, the next step will be to sign your enrollment agreement. And we will contact you about that and then follow up by paying your deposit. Your deposit also will be applied to your tuition payments. Should you wish to study in person in Switzerland, your next step would be then to apply for a visa. I say, should you wish, as was explained at the beginning of the program, we have a blended on-site program. So our classes take place both in person and remotely online on Zoom. So you have both of those options available to you. This worked quite well for us during the whole COVID situation that we had last fall. And we feel that we've perfected perfected that process to at least to a certain degree. Again, should you decide to study in person here with us in Switzerland, the next steps will be on your side, and that involves going to your local Swiss consulate with the following documents. These will vary, but here's a brief list that I've listed here for you today. It's sort of passport, photographs, applications, letter of admission, diplomas, and certificates. And again, we will be supporting you throughout this process. You will also be able to need to prove your proof of financial means or who is the person who will be sponsoring you. This process takes some time. It can take up to 8 weeks. So again, you should start as soon as possible once you've received your admission, should you decide to study here in person with us in Switzerland. Certainly, of course, if you have not received your visa, you can begin your studies online with us until you are able to arrive and study with us here in person. Okay, we can go to the next slide. A little bit about us here in Schaffhausen. I just wanted to mention the picture to the right is of the Rhine Falls, and that was actually taken by one of our students, Yuva Fale, who will be speaking with you here in a moment. So our students are multi-talented, as we can see. It has one of the largest waterfalls, if not the largest here in Europe. Switzerland, as you probably already know, is a beautiful country. It's landlocked. It has 4 national languages, which are German, French, Romansh, and Italian. In the canton of Schaffhausen, where SIT is located, the language is German. They actually also speak a dialect of German called Swiss German. It has 6 neighboring countries. It has approximately 8 million people. There's just 40,000 of those people in the small canton of Schaffhausen, which is in an excellent location, just 36 minutes by train to the city of Zurich, and very easily reachable by the train and the excellent transportation that they have in public transportation in Switzerland. So it's a beautiful city located in one of the heart of Europe, in one of the most beautiful countries in Europe. Well, we can go to the next slide. It's a beautiful country, as you probably all are already aware. It's quite expensive to live here in Switzerland. We've made an estimation for you here on what you might be able to expect in terms of costs for accommodation, food, health insurance. I will mention that health insurance is obligatory in Switzerland, but we have many different options here that are quite affordable for students. And so here's an estimate of approximately 2,000 francs is what we would say is what you should expect in terms of your personal expenses. Of course, this is dependent on your lifestyle. And housing is available in Schaffhausen, both flats that are fully furnished and unfurnished. And we will support you here in the program office in terms of finding options for housing. And I think some of our students will speak to that as well. So, and finally, I just want to say that it's a special country. It's a beautiful country, and SIT is unique. It's a unique opportunity. So we hope you will finalize your applications, and we'll be ready here in the program office to support you every step of the way. So thank you, and
thank you, Carol.
Next student. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just say that I will confirm. I just came back from Schaffhausen, and yes, it's really beautiful. So thank you so much for these details. I'm sure that our future students need this to know. So thank you a lot. And as you now mentioned, yes, we will have now 2 students who will share their experience. And first is Sarah Al-Safori, who will tell us more about her experience. And feel free as well to find her on Facebook and to contact her in case you have any questions regarding this. Sarah, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. And this is Sarah Safori. I'm Egyptian. I will tell you a little bit about me. So before I came here, I'm actually existing now in Schaffhausen. So before I came here, I was a teaching assistant at the British University in Egypt for 4 years now. And deciding, of course, to leave my job, my friends, my family, meant coming out of my comfort zone. And as if I'm not going on a Euro trip, maybe with my family or friends or something, no, I'm actually going to be living here, which is a lot different. Okay. At first, it wasn't much of a process because applying for in the embassy, like they just require a couple of paperwork. You just hand out those paperwork and that's easy. Nothing about that. But the thing is, since I arrived here, the most challenging thing for me was finding an apartment, which happened to be as much as fun as it was very exhaustive, actually. But the good thing that I walked through almost all the streets in Schaffhausen, and I happened to be living in an apartment on the Rheinfall. And as Carol said, there is a river here, a waterfalls, and my apartment is on the waterfall, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. So let me talk about the studies, okay? The studies, you will experience a different style of learning. So since it's a blend, not just because it's a blended program and everything, that's also a bonus, but also the academic staff are of different backgrounds, Italians, Russians, French, Egyptians, Indians, and the list goes on. So which will definitely give you a diverse and a very rich experience. And regarding the modules, it's very well connected and constructed in a way that you can always relate from one module to another. It's connected to an extent that in some modules, you can actually have assignments that it's depending on the work from other modules and other assignments from another modules. Okay, so each semester there will be like you're literally linking the science in a patterned way that I just didn't experience in Egypt before. I usually have independent modules and just connecting the science is just an extra work from my end. Okay. So apart from all that, joining SAT, you will be able to enhance your network. Of course, I've talked already about the diverse nationalities from all over the world. So you gain more confidence, you experience new culture, new perspective, you have people from all over the world, you know. And of course, you have to learn German, which is good to have more than one language. So just to wrap up my words, I would just really say apply and give yourself a chance to experience such a life. It's fun and it's rich. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah, a lot for this. Please stay with us. We have maybe a few questions for you as well. So now I would like to invite Yuva Pal as well, one of SAT students who will share his experience. Yuva, please join us here.
Yeah, hi, hello everyone. I'm Yuva Falle. I come from India. I've done my bachelor's from India itself in computer applications. After that, I was in Russia for a couple of years and I was studying information security. After that, I decided to join SIT because of its multidisciplinary approach and unique flipped learning opportunity, and with its own e-learning platform, which is SIT Alamira. Here at SIT, we have leading professor subjects which are linked to each other. For example, we have Capstone and architecture, where, as we discussed before, like Capstone is a subject where you get a feeling like you're already working on a real life project, like real life company, and architecture strategy, where you where you learn how to build a software architecture and you implement that thing in another subject, which is so cool to have. Like, you're learning something and then you're able to connect two different things to one. And also talking about the student life at SIT, it is amazing. We have students from different countries, so you get to you get exposed to like multicultural environment around. Also, yes, because of that, you get to have good food from different countries. We live in Schaffhausen, which is a small, lovely town close to Zurich. Luckily, my residence is also like 5 minutes walk from Rainfall, which is the largest waterfall in Europe. If you are thinking about being part of SIT family, I would say rather stop thinking and start applying. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. If you have any questions, you can reach me out.
Thank you a lot for this one. Okay, so I would like now just to thank all of you speakers who took time to join us here and to share your experience and some of key information that our future students should know. As I already mentioned, now we will have a Q&A session, and we already got some questions. So I would like now to ask, just to see. Okay, first question is for Carol. So Carol, is it possible to study online or just on site?
It's possible to do both. We have a blended program, blended synchronous learning. So that what that means is that the classes are taking place both in person and online. We made some adjustments last term in the fall due to the situation with COVID. But so we had some opportunities to meet with our instructors in person, but these classes also, again, took place simultaneously online or synchronously. Some of the lectures are recorded in advance in certain courses. If there's material that needs to be studied in advance in preparation for your course, I think Bertrand, you might be able to speak a little bit to that as well. I know you had some information that was prepped in advance of the course so that the students would be ready for their courses. But in short, yes, you can do both online and in person.
Thank you, Carol. Bertrand, now a question for you. It says, do we have minimum required GPA when the faculty is reviewing application? Bertrand, you're muted.
That's because you muted me.
It's not me, but yes.
Someone muted me. We look at each application individually, so we don't have like a strict rule which says your GPA has to be such and such, which would be impossible anyway, because we recruit students from all over the world, and the rules are completely different in the US, in Western Europe, in Africa, and so on. So we expect a good GPA, right? We want to have good students, but we take a holistic look at the application, and we look at positive points, for example, that could compensate for a not completely stellar GPA.
Thank you, Bertrand, so much for this. Now,
Bojana, can I add here?
Of course.
Because I also received lots of questions about the test and if I need to complete and to solve all the 4 tasks. No, it's not needed. It's for sure it's good, but this is just one of the criteria as well. So we our faculty, Professor Bertrand Menu, when they review your application, they check all the documents, your GPA, from what university, what courses you took on at a university, and also one of the criteria is the results of your test. If you don't solve all the tasks, don't worry, you can get to the next step of your application process as well.
Thank you.
To add even a little more on what Olga just said, we look for forward-looking, innovative, critical thinkers. So of course we want people who are successful academically, and GPA is a very important component of that, but we are really looking for interesting personalities, people who want to change something to make their contribution. So GPA is not the only criterion in this respect. Olga just mentioned the programming test, but there are others as well. And we look at the CVs to see, we look for things that really distinguish the candidates from everyone else.
Thank you. So now, Olga, you mentioned tests, etc. So I would like to actually pass this question to you. It says, I cannot finalize the test if I cannot finalize the test during the 7 days. Is it possible to provide a new link for the test or to change deadline?
Yeah, what I can tell is better for sure to finalize during these 7 days, because we don't have so much time before the application deadline. But if you have you cannot finalize during 7 days, yes, please write it to me and I will provide a new link for the test for you. The same for interview. When we schedule interview, for sure it's better, because we have slots for the interviews. But if you cannot, please let me know, reply to me, and we'll provide and find another slot for interviews for you. Yeah.
If I can add something to this again, the time is of the essence for the test, right? I mean, it's clear that today, given the amount and the wealth of material that there is on the internet, given enough time, you can find the answer to just about any question by Googling around. This is not a test of your Googling abilities, but this is a test of your programming abilities. So if you have trouble during the test, during the imparted time, maybe this is not for you. Maybe the program is not for you.
Thank you, Bertrand. And we have one more question for Manuel. I would like actually you to answer this because it's related to Capstone Project about grading system, how the Capstone is graded.
A very good question. So as you can imagine, it's difficult to grade such a course because you have so many people providing contributions to various parts of the system. What we have is we have 1/3 of the course which is graded on a cohort grade. So basically the overall results, because in a real development environment, in a real company, you cannot be successful if everyone else around is not, right? So if you cannot deliver the system, you cannot be super successful. Right? Typically, this grade has been almost at the maximum for the past 2 semesters because people care. So all the students, they really care, and that is important to know. Then there's 2/3 of the grade, which are based on groups. And so every 2 weeks, we have sprints. So we have sprint reviews with clear deliverables. They are indicated there, and then we grade presentations, we grade the quality of the code, we grade a number of topics there. What we use is what is called a 3-value grading. So it's either 0, 1, or 2 for each of the individual components. Why do we do that? Because it's really difficult to grade on more than that for the human brain. So how do you know that you have something that is 1.5 or 0.5? It's very difficult. And what it means is 0 is you didn't do enough there. 1 is it's okay and good. And 2 means it's great. So then we have all these components and we recompose them, and that gives you a final grade for this sprint. And after that, we simply aggregate all this with the 1/3, 2/3 rule, and that is the main thing. Now, because some people are remote, we have changing situations. We have had students in various areas of the world where sometimes you lose completely connectivity for 1 or 2 weeks. It's difficult, right? So sometimes we need to, it happened once in the last semester, we need to look at the specifics of a group and then grade individually people. But we try to adapt because we try to be fair. That's the main point.
Thank you a lot, Manuel. We have 2 more questions, and then we will have to close it up. So first is for Carol. Does ICT help students who move to Schaffhausen find housing, collecting documents, apply for rental, etc.?
Thank you, Biljana. Dean, we will support students in that process. We won't be the ones to actually go and find an apartment for the students, but we will support them in that process or point them to the resources that we have here in Schaffhausen. And we have several people in our office who are also locals and can assist with that. I also speak German and can support you as well. And in addition, we're fortunate enough to have some students, as you also heard from Sarah, who've gone through the process themselves and can advise you. When it comes to documentation, certainly the student's responsible for going to their local consulate and applying for a visa there, but we provide the supporting documentation in all of these cases and support you in going to the residency office, reminding you to apply for health insurance and all of these administrative tasks. So we will be we can't do the work for you, but we will be there to support you through the process.
Thank you, Carol. And as I already mentioned, one more question is, I would like Bertrand for you to pass it. So how does an online student do elective internship if they go for the classic program?
How do remote students find an internship? Was that a question?
How does the online student can do these elective internship that he or she choose if they go for the classic program?
Yeah, the internships are really supplementary exercises, so they're very informal. They usually do not bring any credits, any actual brownie points, if you like, for the program. This is really for personal development. And in many cases, especially given the current circumstances, they are indeed done remotely. The world, big news, the world has changed a lot in the past year and a half. I'm mentioning this just in case you hadn't noticed. And things which used to require physical presence from 8 to 5 every day are now routinely done from 10,000 kilometers across the world. So I'm not saying everything is easy. You do have to look to find. To look around in order to find internships. But there are internships to be found, and in many cases they can be done remotely just as well as they can be done on site.
Thank you a lot, Bertrand. Okay, so I think that's it. I would like again to thank you all for joining us here and for taking time for this. I'm sure that all of our attendees now will maybe have more questions, so please feel free to write any questions to master-office@sat.org. And as I already mentioned, we will send you after the email with recording where you will be able to share it with your friends, family, and to check it out again. So thank you once again all for joining, and see you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.